David McBride, it's a huge day for you.
It is. It's D-Day.
How are you feeling?
I feel like, I left it all on the field in the sense that I am, I don't like to admit it as a man, perhaps as a soldier, but yeah, I'm pretty tired. I've been emotional the last week. Small things have upset me. And that's a good thing in some ways because it means that I've really gone as hard as I can to achieve what I wanted to achieve. But I can't say that, whatever happens today, put it this way, it'll be hard to choke back the tears because while it's not going to be completely over today, it is the end of a pretty long phase. And, it's emotion is going to come out either way.
I'm Daniel James, and you're listening to 7am. Whistleblower David McBride has been released from prison on parole after serving 27 months for leaking classified defence documents to journalists. Those documents help expose allegations of war crimes by Australian soldiers in Afghanistan. Years on, he's still the only person to be jailed over the Afghan Files. The alleged perpetrators, roaming free as the person who revealed them, sat behind bars. Today, as McBride walks free from prison, we're returning to an interview Ashlynne McGhee recorded with him just before he was jailed, on why he leaked those documents, whether he had any regrets, and how Australia keeps its secrets. It's Sunday, August 16. This was first published in May 2024.
David, I just want you to take me back to 2011 first. You were in the Army Legal Corps, posted to Afghanistan. Back then, what did you think about the war?
When you're a soldier, and I've always wanted to be a soldier, love being a soldier, and if there is a war your country's fighting in, you want to be a part of it. I had a bit of a dichotomy. I'd been to Afghanistan in 2000 when the Taliban were running it, making documentaries. I'd seen a lot of the developing world, and I'd also been in the British Army before that. So I came with a fair bit of, I guess I was realistic. I didn't think it was going to be perfect, but I had doubts about the larger scale things in that we were saying we were winning when that wasn't at all clear. And I suspected it was a case of just put out the good news message. And politicians came to visit. The Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, came, and the leader of the opposition, as he was then, Tony Abbott, came, and we told them how good everything was going. And I felt uncomfortable about that.
Opposition leader Tony Abbott has visited Australian soldiers serving in Afghanistan. Amid calls for more troops and equipment, Mr Abbott encouraged the troops to speak candidly about the situation on the ground.
I stand in humble awe of those who don't just risk their reputations, but who put their lives on the line every day for our country.
I had my doubts about the bigger pictures in the war to say how much of this is window dressing for domestic political audiences and how much of this is actually trying to do a good job and actually improve the situation.
So you're watching all of this happen. Was there a particular thing that happened in your work environment or that crossed your desk that really was a turning point for you?
There was actually. I'd forgotten all about it, but when I wrote my book in 2011 even, there was something happened. And one of the jobs as a lawyer is to go and visit the prisons, the Afghan prisons, and to make sure that people we have captured are not being mistreated. And someone was brought into me, and as he started explaining his story, it was clear that he hadn't been captured by the Australians. But before he'd finished, he said, I've been beaten with it. He showed me his hands and he said, I was hung up by the roof of the prison with manacles, or left there all day, and then they came out with an iron bar and bashed me around the head. And he had scars. He had still fresh scars on his head and fresh scars on his hands. Now, as a legal officer under the Geneva Convention, you can't ignore that. So even if he wasn't my prisoner, in the sense that he hadn't been captured by the Australians, this was a reasonable allegation of abuse. And when I got back to base, everyone went into a bit of a panic, and which surprised me. It seemed to be implied to me that I needed to just turn the other way about this. So it was only a small thing, but considering what we now know about what went on, but it was indicative of to say, don't look under any rocks, don't find out about anything, because we don't want bad news stories. Now then, in 2013, they put out a sort of a change in the rules of engagement, and it said something like, basically, it was a very one-page thing, and it said, don't murder at the bottom. And I said, what's this about? Because according to all our reports, there hasn't been a single trial. And why are you putting out this thing? If everything's okay, why are you reminding people with this new thing saying don't murder? Has something happened? And I was told, no. And I just thought that was strange. Something's going on. And then in 2013, suddenly, having not had a single criminal investigation during a very turbulent period where we now know that there were a lot of war crimes, we were investigating everything. It looked like we were pretending to care, but we weren't really caring because we weren't investigating some things which looked highly suspicious. And so I just started asking questions. And then in September, when I was over there was a guy who'd done what many soldiers had met before. He was just defending himself. And it wasn't so much that I had some sort of crystal ball or I was in love with him or anything. There was no evidence to suggest this was a murder. I said, this is strange. And I didn't know what was up, but I suspected that the investigations in 2013 were window dressing for the media in order to say, look over here, don't look over there. There was whispers that there would be, in 2012, there'd been a kill count competition to see who could get the highest kill count, and a certain soldier had won it. And they also put the kill counts on the door each day.
When they reiterated the rules of engagement in 2013, in the context of all these rumours, whispers, seeing that kind of kill count on the door there, why raise an issue with them reiterating that? It sounds like maybe that was what was needed at the time.
Well, why didn't they investigate the allegations? If they think someone's done something, you should investigate it.
Did you ever raise that up the chain and say, hey, here's what's going on?
No, I didn't know. And I was a lawyer with a very good career, and I wanted to keep it. It was a perfect job for me. I loved it. It was half lawyer, half soldier, and I didn't particularly want to rock the boat. I suspected something big was up.
Did you feel like some soldiers were being scapegoated when other soldiers were actually the ones that were doing the really bad stuff?
Yeah, I absolutely felt that. I felt like they didn't want certain famous soldiers to come under any investigation because they thought that might these were people that were popular and that would cause a lot of furor. So they wanted some non-entities to be able to sort of punish. I began to believe that was exactly what was happening. My goal was always to say the leadership should be investigated, and I still think they should be investigated. I think they probably knew about Ben Roberts-Smith, and I think they were doing window dressing in 2013. Bad soldiers are a problem, and we have to get rid of, but bad leaders are a much bigger problem. I knew even when I was there that I was going to make a complaint that something was up. And it took me a while because I knew it would have to be good and it would have to be well resourced and have a lot of documents attached to it to explain what I was doing and to be relatively carefully worded. As I said, I wanted a result. And so after hours, I would stay late and I would look through the files looking for things to show that
Was it putting your career at risk?
It was putting my career at risk, but the job of the Defence Force is to protect Australia from threats. If we have leaders who are completely political and dishonest, we are not doing our job.
And so in preparing that report for leadership, that's very different to going public with that same information. Talk to me about when you decided it was something you wanted the public to know about.
Well, it took a while. I needed a partner, a good investigative journalist, to look into the political side, to get a source in the minister's office, to find out where the email trails, what they said, if there was anybody who gave anything away, and in anyone within the suits, I guess, the parliament end of things, who knew what was going on and could shed light. So I wanted a really good investigative journalist, not to put the documents online, but to start looking into it.
When you did give them to the ABC, to Dan Oakes, a former colleague of mine at the ABC, what did you think when the ABC published that story? What was your first reaction to it?
Well, I was disappointed with the story because it was okay. It was good that something was happening. So that was good that something was happening. I didn't particularly like the emphasis on this, only on the soldiers and not on the leadership. I would have been happy if they'd done both, but, well, the leaders have a case to answer about whether they knew what was going on.
Some of your critics say that you never set out to expose war crimes in the first place. What do you make of that?
Well, what's a war crime? You know, if they say I was never out to expose bad soldiers, they've got a point. I think the two things are linked. I think war crimes are already part of the story, but the biggest story is who knew what and when they knew it. It's not about the last war, it's about the next war. And if we don't have honest, trustworthy people who really play with a straight bat in charge of our defence force, we're not actually defended properly.
After the break, what has life been like for David McBride as he awaits his sentence? David, you ended up pleading guilty to 3 charges and you face sentencing today. And it's been months since you entered that guilty plea. What's that wait been like?
Up and down, you know. I've got no money. I've lost my job. I've lost all my savings. I've lost a lot. You know, I like the sort of person I've become, but I don't recommend it. If you want an easy ride, it's not a way to celebrity, put it that way.
Do you fear going to prison?
I usually, I've got a bit of a dichotomy about that. I don't fear the 4 walls and so much. Obviously, if you're prepared to put your life on the line for the military, you're prepared to die for your country. So I guess you can't complain about being put into prison. And in some ways, you know, they say, oh, you got to live your life like it's your last. I never really did that before. And now, the last couple of years at least, I have done that. I every time I watch a movie with my daughter, I really savour the experience. We play a lot of video games together, and I love that. I was always a pretty affectionate dad anyway, but I'm more so now. I can't hug them enough, and I can't just say nice things to them, I guess. I want them to remember me well, and it's because I really do love every minute with them. I spend a lot of time with my dog. One of the hardest things is going to be missing out on with my dog, Jake. I'm secretly hoping I can get him as registered as an assistance dog so he can come in with me.
So given everything that's about to happen today, when you return to court to be sentenced, do you have any regrets about leaking those documents?
This is the question. Look, I don't. I'm trying to get accountability at the top. That hasn't happened yet. Saying that, if I hadn't done what I've done, it never would have happened. And my conscience is such that I had to do something. I did the best that I can in the circumstances, and I'm proud of myself for standing up. I didn't even know whether I could do it myself.
So in the years since this started unfolding, we've seen the release of the Brereton report, which recommended the AFP investigate 36 matters for potential prosecution. Do you think we'll ever see these crimes prosecuted?
It's a good question, and I don't know. And some of my friends put it that way. Some of my friends say, who are also sort of on my side of the fence, agitators, they say that the purpose of the Brereton report was to put the International Criminal Court off and to make sure that there are no investigations. It does seem strange that 10 years, 11 years, probably 15 years after some of these things happen, that we still haven't. We've only had one person charged, and he was charged as a result of a video. And apparently the Brereton reports made it harder for people to actually be charged. And I don't know if that was the idea of it, but it is a bit. I think it's unsatisfactory that we haven't had more charges yet. Now, we might not get convictions, but we really do need to get on with it.
I've heard a lot of words used to describe you, David McBride. I've heard things like some nice, some not so nice. I've heard whistleblower, traitor, hero, showman. What words would you use to describe yourself?
Yeah, well, I'm a soldier. I mean, you have to be a bit of a showman. You're not going to get accountability justice if you just unless you create a fuss. So I do get that a lot, but it's like you've got to do what you've got to do in order to get a result. And traitor, yeah, well, I mean, I don't think I'm a traitor, but in the sense that I am out to try to make the Defence Force defend Australia. So I don't think that makes me a traitor. So, yeah, I'm doing what I can to make this country a better place. I don't think anyone can say that I'm not trying to do what is right. And maybe if there is an inquiry, I will achieve what I wanted to achieve. People might not like it, but my conscience is pretty happy with that.
David, thanks so much for the chat today.
Thank you.
"7am will be back tomorrow with an episode on why, for the first time in generations, Australia is being asked to think seriously about how it would cope with a major war. Not just whether our military is ready, but whether our civilians, supply chains and economy are prepared as well. We speak with Sam Roggeveen, Director of the Lowy Institute's International Security Program, about what Australia is actually preparing for and how far that preparation could go.
Well, I mean, one model is something like you see maybe in Finland or in Israel, where effectively it means you are, to a degree, militarising the entire society. So you have universal conscription. North Korea is another example of that, perhaps a slightly more invidious example, where when you take it to an extreme, it ends up, impoverishing really the entire society. That's one end of the spectrum. I think for Australia, it will never reach those levels. I know there are some people who are calling for a reintroduction of conscription, but really in the short to medium term, probably what it looks like is a national capability to withstand a pressure campaign against Australia.
I'm Daniel James. Thanks for listening.